It's my pleasure now to welcome on Joel Sardi. Joel, how are you today, mate?
Doing well, Chris. Doing well, mate. Thank you.
You call Eltham home, which is God's country and the part of the world that I'm from. So I'm very excited for this
Yes.
because people who haven't been to Eltham, they really should because it's absolutely a sensational place of the world with great people, and you're one of those.
Thank
Let's
you.
let's talk about Joel and who he was growing up as a kid.
All right. Yep. So I was born in Sunbury, and my parents moved me over to Eltham eventually. But I think I was like 4 or 5. And then after that, I went to primary school here in Eltham. Played basketball at the Eltham Wildcats. Did a bit of administration work there as an early job to make a bit of cash. My younger brother played at Eltham Basketball Club as well, and then we moved on to Research Junior Football Club. We went to school, both secondary school at Whitefriars College in Donvale. And I guess from there, we both formed our relationships that would probably shape our younger years. I made a friend who then convinced me to eventually take a career path I never would have thought I would have taken. Probably we'll get to that soon, but I played senior football for Lob Playing Football Club, which is where I think I met Scott Panunzio, which is our mutual friend here.
Yeah, the great man,
and
the great man, Mud.
Yeah, Scotty Peanuns. He once wore a headband for a while. That was questionable, but we'll forgive him for that.
Yeah,
The headband years, that was some good years for Scott.
I'll just tell you a quick story
Yeah,
about Scott. I played football with him in Canada, and I'm not sure what he was like as a footballer here because I've only seen limited
he was a
experiences.
gun.
But
He was a gun.
mate, honestly, he was. I call him the Chris Judd of Canada. The way he tore up this, heavily grassed paddock over there, it was actually frightening. And he didn't have elite fitness, but his ball usage was second to none, and
Yeah.
it was absolutely frightening and probably damaging to the development of football in Canada because people didn't want to get near him.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely disregarding the character he is as well. Like, he's an absolute top human being.
No, he is. We love him.
Yeah, plenty of time for Scott. I'm sure I'll thank him for this later. But yeah, I mean, after that, I played football for plenty, and then took a career path, as I said, that I never thought I would. I joined the Australian Defence Force. So at 19, I enlisted, and at the age of 20, I think I spent my first day like on the bus going to Kapuka, which is like your initial training if you join the army.
Let's talk about the army because, as I sort of touched on before, it was something that was in the back of my mind, but I knew I didn't have the cojones for it. So you were a rifleman in the Australian Defence Force. What was it outside of, say, your mate trying to, encouraging you to take that career path that sort of, attracted you to it?
I've had a lot to think about that lately, given the 20-year anniversary of 9/11, because I think that's what really started my intrigue into the military, and just seeing footage of what happened in America sort of didn't sit well with me for a long time. And then seeing footage of guys in Afghanistan and people doing military training, there was an aspect of that caught my attention. And the more and more videos I watched, I know that it's never like the real thing, but that really whet my appetite for it. And I thought, I wonder what it would be like. And I never really went down that path until I guess I had a back injury, like a spinal injury, funnily enough, when I was 18. And I was in rehab and out of action for like maybe a year. No, it wasn't maybe, it was 8 months. And during this time, I spoke to a friend I went to school with, and he was telling me about what he was doing. He just joined the army and how he loved it. It was like a football club on steroids, essentially. And I thought, why not? Spur of the moment, I jumped on, applied on defense jobs, and that was it. That was the start of my army career.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, as I said, when I was 20, jumped on the bus and went to Kapuka.
What were those early days in Kapuka like? Was that a eyes wide open sort of what have I done kind of a moment?
Yeah. For those that know me, know that I'm a family oriented man. It's Italian family, so everyone's very tight. Everyone does everything together. And I didn't mention, but up until I joined the army. I was at RMIT studying marketing, and I was
A little bit of a shift.
yeah. Oh, look, I was like a sheep. I was like, everyone's going to uni. I better go to uni because that's what everyone does. And it wasn't until I had my back injury that I started to really shift my views, or maybe like my career path, obviously. But yeah, I was going to uni, and my mum was still making my lunch for me every day. So, it'd come to lunchtime at uni, and it'd be a surprise for me what was in my lunchbox, because I wasn't making it. That was the sort of person I was. My mum still made my lunch. I don't think I even made my bed back then, which, funnily enough, now after being in the army for so long, is like your key thing during training. But everything I did, I spoke to mum morning, lunch, and night. And my dad too, and family as well. But I was a real mummy's boy. And then I remember getting on the bus from the city because that's where you join basically as Defence Force recruiting in the city, and jump on the bus and go into Kapuka, which is just near Wagga Wagga. So it's like a 5-hour bus ride. And there was one person in Cairns, army uniform, to escort us on the bus from Melbourne to Kapuka. And, as you do, hey, mate, how are you?
Whoops.
So, yeah, this guy had a pencil, and I had to borrow. I said, this guy to the guy in uniform, hey, mate, can I borrow your pencil to write something down? And he stands over me. He's like, I'm not your fucking mate. Oh, shit. And it's not like he was joking. Like, he held his face real aggressive. And I thought, oh, fuck,
I take it he wasn't going to make your lunch for you.
No, he didn't make my lunch for me. He didn't make my day any nicer. Funnily enough, the first thing I did, I was like, Mum, I just got in trouble. Messaged my mum on the phone. And that was like the first of many realizations that your mum's not making your lunch for you anymore. This is the army. You're now a fucking recruit, and it's not, hey, Joel, it's recruit Sardi. And that's where like that shock factor just came into it. Getting off the bus, walking down the stairs to the main room where we all form up and get told what platoon we're in, what section we're in, basically. And I remember getting off the bus. I had a leather jacket on, a white shirt, button-up shirt with nice pants, because the shirt wasn't tucked in. First thing I did, I got off the bus and I just walked over to get my bag. Put your fucking shirt on, tuck it in. And there's people like in my face yelling at me. I'm okay, didn't know what to do. Because basically, as soon as you get there, nothing you do is to standard or good or right, because they just, they implore the highest standards. They want you to be the best you can be. So I think that's where that came from. But it was funny because everything we did from that moment on, we were getting yelled at for not marching properly, not holding a towel properly in our hands. It was a shambles from the moment I stepped off that bus. Or maybe the moment I stepped on the bus in Melbourne, it was a shambles.
When you opened up your lunch bag and there wasn't a pencil in there, you're like, oh shit, what have I done?
Yeah. Hey mate. So that funny times. Yeah, funny times. As a 20-year-old boy, you still got blinkers on. Like as a male, like my brain still hadn't developed. There was just things that didn't make sense to me, and it was a whole new world I was about to step into.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had those blinkers on. Probably still do from some aspect. But when I went to live overseas when I was 27, which is sort of where I knew Scott beforehand, but that's sort of where we sort of became close. There were so many things and so many aspects about life that I sort of was like, what? Holy shit. I was living at home in Eltham until I was like 27. I was like, how easy was this?
Wow.
It was like a real smack in the face. And like the smack in the face I got was nothing compared to what you would have got. But talk about that brotherhood on steroids, as you sort of mentioned, because it is one of those things that I think attracts so many people to the army, is that camaraderie and that sort of sense of brotherhood.
Yeah, talking about the culture shock. You're 27, you leave Melbourne, like this beautiful bubble wrap society, especially Eltham, and you go overseas and you see different people speaking with funny accents or perhaps a different language. Well, I guess that was when I got off the bus. There's people speaking in military speak, and they don't speak like you and I are. They use like a drill voice so they can save their voice box, because they're continually yelling at you for 20 hours a day. So just so many shocks. But to go back to that football club on steroids, I think if I could put it for you in one little anecdotal story, the first night of being at Kapuka, there was, like 45 of us, and I think there was probably 36 blokes, and we all had to have a shower, obviously, and group showers, and there's no doors on the showers, and you're getting your kit off in front of blokes you've never seen before. You got to dry yourself in front of guys you've never seen before. So it's just big, everywhere you look, there's naked people, and you don't really get that dignity of closing the door and having a shower. And I remember on the first night, I was like, don't look at me in the corner, sort of scrub myself quickly. And that was the first night. And then something changed along the 3 months. By the last night, shower time was the most fun time of the day, because we could all get in there and there was no corporals in there telling us what to do or whatever. We were in there, we were able to be ourselves, even though we were, naked. And I was like, in the end, it was a bit of a joke. I'd grab all the soap, because we kept all the cleaning detergents in the bathroom. I grabbed all the soap, and along the strip where the showers were, I just put the soap on the ground and then put heaps of water on there. And I'd just get my kid off and slide on the ground like a seal or a walrus. And that was, that. There's the first day where I'm in the corner, scrubbing myself. And then the last day where I was just doing the walrus on the ground, having fun with everyone in the showers. And it was just the fun thing to do, because you're with these guys that for the last 3 months, you've shown your vulnerabilities, or you've been fucking abused. You've been shown that you failed, and then you've succeeded together as a team with these people. And there's just this real strong bond there that just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And you just having the time of your life in the end. And that's what it was. And that was only the start, really, of my military journey, because that was the end of Kapuka. Once you leave Kapuka, you then go to something called your initial employment training, which is your trade school. So from there, I left this larger group of people that were going to go be truck drivers, working in admin, people that would be mechanics, whatever. And then you leave that larger group, and then it gets refined even more. You go to Singleton, which is the IET, where I'm there with guys that are learning to be, or training to be, a rifleman. So in the infantry. So it's a brotherhood even tighter than that. And that journey got even better, because for 3 months at Kapuka, we had no time off. It was 7 days a week. I think the only break was going to church on a Sunday, and everyone that knows me, and you could probably gather yourself, church isn't my thing. So I didn't really call that a day off. And then you leave Kapuka, you go to Singleton, where it's basically Monday to Friday. Sometimes you get weekends off. You knock off at about 5 o'clock every day. You can get your phone. You're getting paid a bit more money. You're with these guys that you're getting really close with. You're doing some crazy shit during the week, training, getting flogged. And then as hard as you're training, you're having just as much fun on the weekend, drinking with them. And boy, do you learn to drink.
You get found out quick.
I mean, you get found out, but you get taught how to drink really quick too.
Talk about the behavioural traits and characteristics, and I guess also the situational experiences that you do sort of learn and have to go through in these things, because I can only imagine just sort of how important that would sort of become in everyday life.
Yeah. I mean, they're values that can cross over to everything you do today, as just civilians. It's discipline, integrity, respect, teamwork. That's a real cliche few words used in the army, but they're things that were absolutely drilled into you, and small examples were blown out to be big things. For example, if you didn't tell the truth, or you forgot a minute detail in a process of something you were trained to do, it was blown up to be, well, because you didn't sweep the floor properly, you didn't hide the tracks of your section, therefore the enemy was able to come and find you, and they killed everyone. It's a big blown out example and dramatized, but that's what they sort of drove home, the discipline to do things properly, and the teamwork. If you don't do that properly, the team fails. So all those sort of foundational lessons were then carried on, and they apply to everything you do in the military, and flip it to what we have now in society. I think I still follow those principles now, and they're so applicable because I don't know, if you use those principles, you're going to do pretty well in life, generally speaking.
I had a guest on, Robert Sams, who is a executive director of Lifeline, and he spoke about resilience, but he sort of spoke about it from a sense of you never sort of stop, learning resilience.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at, say going through that 3-month camp in Kapuka, you said you've been absolutely flogged, you've done all this and all that, and the shower time was the only time where you could sort of go, like, be yourself. But there's that real sense of completion, and there are sort of the original steps of learning that resilience that you can sort of apply to future situations.
Yeah. I mean, and speaking of resilience, resilience isn't born from, I've said this before, winning the lottery. Resilience is born out of hardship, out of tough times. And the military training was full of that. And military experiences are full of that. So, of course, you're going to naturally become more resilient the further in your career you progress.
Talk about, I know you deployed to Afghanistan, and you spoke about the fact that, you were a mummy's boy, and, we did live in this sort of glad wrapped sort of bubble world being from Eltham. What was your original experiences getting there? And that just must have been, sort of something else. Obviously your eyes were already open through the training, but this is almost something you can't really, prepare for.
Yeah. Oh, look, that mummy's boy feature of me, that was quickly wiped in at Kapuka. I reckon by about week 6 or 7, that umbilical cord had been cut, and I was starting to become a bit of a man, independent, you could say. But yeah, that took a while to wipe off that mummy's boy aspect. But once the army training kicked in and the brotherhood was there, and I started making friends that I knew I would have for life, that whole wrapped in cotton wool mummy's boy had gone. But when fast forward to 2013, 21st of May 2013, when we deployed to Afghan, I just remember just taking everything in, looking around. There's to go on that culture shock again. It's a culture shock. You see these places on TV, you see Dubai, because we have to fly into Dubai first. You see Dubai on TV, the massive buildings, people, the sheiks, the camels in the desert, the wealth. You see it on TV, and then you fly into Dubai, and well, fuck, there it is. And then the next 2 days, we went through all this force prep and a lot of I think they were briefs about information about what was happening overseas. And then that's it. All right, boys, tomorrow you're going in. And I think the distance from Dubai to Afghan is the same as Sydney to Melbourne. It's an hour's flight. And obviously you don't just jump on a Qantas plane and go from Qantas, Dubai to Kandahar, Tarankat, but we took obviously took military aircraft over. And I remember coming into land, just looking out the window and just seeing this vast desert, the mountains as far as you can see, blue skies. And it was just so surreal that, fuck, we're in Afghanistan, 2 years ago, I was crying because I called my mum for the first time after 7 days of being in Kapuka. And here we are now, 2 years later, with some of the best friends I'll ever have for the rest of my life in Afghan. It was just amazing. I'm not, with respect to war and the atrocities that happen over there and everything, but I'm just saying, the whole scenario was amazing. The fact that we were in Afghanistan and all that training that we'd done, we'd finally made it. And I guess the work after that was then to follow. But yeah, just getting there alone was incredible.
Go away from the army stuff now, and we'll talk about your accident. So in August of 2014, you had a fall which ultimately left you as a C5 quadriplegic. Take us through that and what that means for you physically.
Yeah. So I fell down some stairs, broke my neck, and at the C5 level, and physically it meant that anything from basically just, I'd say, my nipples down is non-functioning. That goes for bowel and bladder and sexual function, and being able to sweat, being able to regulate my body temperature, feel pain. I discovered that a few weeks ago after, we'll get into that, after a little incident. But yeah, so, becoming quadriplegic, that was obviously, without, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to work that out, but it was life-changing, flipped everything upside down, not just for me, but for everybody around me. But yeah, like you and I have spoken about this, like, there's a lot of dark days after it, but they're gone. Or let's just say they're gone for now. My life's amazing now. But, there was a massive transitional stage from basically waking up as a able-bodied person, going to work, playing football, living my life as I wanted to. If I wanted to go for a run, I'd go for a run. To then suddenly breaking my neck and not being able to move my fucking arms for a few days because I was paralyzed. And then learning that I had to piss through a catheter, which is a tube that goes through my urethra all the way into my bladder 6 or 7 times a day. And I have to use a suppository that gets shoved up my ass to help me shit, basically, for the rest of my life. So these transitional things were huge. And that took a long time to learn how to essentially live again, because I had to learn how to live with a spinal cord injury, which is basically huge because your spinal cord controls everything to do with your body. So yeah, I had to learn how to live again, and everyone had to learn how to not look after me, but how to be around me, how to support me, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally. So yeah, that was a massive change in my life that I wouldn't wish upon anybody.
No, absolutely. And I don't think anyone would wish that on anyone. I know a large part of people who go through these spinal cord injuries, they talk about the rehab process and getting back some of those, additional functions that, you touched on there. You woke up and you couldn't feel your arms. Like, talk about, going through the rehab process and then, getting back some of the things, while to me or to other people, it might seem, really small, but for you has ultimately been super, super important to, regain a little bit more of that, like, independence back.
Yeah. I was a really fit or physically active person. I was probably fit in some people's eyes, and I was strong, and exercise was a massive part of my life. And then to have that all taken away from me was really hard. To the way that I would express my frustration sometimes would be in the gym, or going for a run, a swim, a ride, whatever. And then that was all taken from me. So then learning that I'd only have, a bicep and a shoulder, no tricep. So, like, ability to straighten your arm. I know I just did it. So contradictive, but it's not against gravity. It's flat. But, like, if I need to go above my head, I can't, which means, push-ups, most exercises in the gym, almost anything above your head, I can't do. So it meant there was very few exercises I could do, and very few things I could do to blow off steam, I suppose, and then to start rehabilitating. And one thing I learned was, no matter how hard I worked in the gym after my injury or in a rehab facility, it didn't mean that if I worked out 10 times a day, 7 days a week for 360 days a year, that I would walk again. There's no 2 injuries that are the same, therefore no recovery journeys are the same. So a C5 quadriplegic standing or sitting next to me could one day, because his injury wasn't too bad or her injury wasn't too bad, could walk. But because of my injury being the way it is, I probably won't. And that was something that I had to get my head around, and I had to tell other people, because there was a lot of like, if anyone could do it, it would be you. Lucky it happened to you, Joel, because you work hard and you'll get through this. So that sort of mindset was like really debilitating, because the rehab, as much as I loved it and worked my ass off, I was only getting like minute improvements. And that would be, I can hold my posture better for longer, or I've got better shoulder stability, which means I can, again, hold my posture good, or I can do like an exercise, a technique better. Not necessarily I'm getting up and walking again.
I mean, talk about those conversations that you sort of had there. How do you approach those? Because I can only imagine that it's, you sort of touched on, it's kind of difficult to hear, someone say, oh, absolutely, like you've got it. How do you approach that?
I realize that nobody is innately evil or bad. Nobody says those sort of things like with a hidden agenda to really insult me. People say that because they don't know what else to say, or they're trying to be supportive. And I appreciate that. And I can't ask for anything more. So when someone says that to me, I'm not going to shoot them down and say, well, actually, shut up. No, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Why? That's not going to help anyone. So I just appreciate that. And I see it's coming from a good place, and I'll just say thanks.
As you sort of touched on before, a conversation like this, it's so easy to get caught up in the, what you've lost. But, let's talk about what you've gained from it. Injury aside, when you look at, say, Joel now versus the old Joel, what do you think and what do you see?
Geez, I see a lot more resilience, someone who's a lot more opportunistic, optimistic. And Jesus, like my life now, quadriplegic or not, is just gets better and better. Like, I've got an amazing wife, a beautiful daughter. My family is incredibly supportive. We got great friends. And I'm not saying that wouldn't have happened had I not have had my injury, but Jesus, things would have been a lot different. Like I may not have come home from Adelaide. I might have stayed over there for work, or who knows what would have happened. So, the what ifs are the biggest waste of time, but I look at what I do have as opposed to like, oh, what if? And I'm pretty happy, mate. Like pretty content with my life at the moment.
Perspectives and mindsets are, such a massive massive hurdle, you could say, to jump over. Talk about how your perspectives and mindsets have shifted throughout this, this transition from, say, when the injury happened to, now where you're sitting back going like, have a look at what I've got. Like, this is getting better every day. Like, I can't complain about this.
Yeah, perspective is like the one thing in our life that we can control. And it's funny because it's the one thing in our life that makes the biggest difference in our life. Early days for me, after my injury, it was always, why me? I can't do it. It's not fair. I don't want to do it anymore. And that would then set my narrative, essentially, or what my daily life would look like. My perspective was shit. Therefore, I'm not saying my life was shit, but my output wasn't that good, wasn't that productive. I wasn't doing good things with my life. And then I had a life-changing moment, or my low point, and started to shift my perspective a bit to, I may not be able to, let's just say, go for a run with my mates, but I can jump in my power chair and follow them around the golf course. I can jump in my power chair and go for a walk with one of them. And so I started doing that. I started following my mates around the golf course. I started going for a walk with my mate and my dog. And I was starting to smile and have fun again. And I realized that, I may not be able to do all that stuff. So why dwell on that? Like, where's it going to get me? And the perspective changed to, let's try this, let's try that. And I started going on little holidays, eventually went overseas with Elisa. I started traveling, and I was having the best time. I was having an incredible time, as I said, quadriplegic or not. And that was all because of my perspective. So there's something to be probably said about perspective and how we don't use it enough. But I'm going to keep that to me because that's my little secret. No,
absolutely, mate. You keep all those secrets to yourself. I think perspectives absolutely is probably one of the most important things that we can learn as a human. I think back to certain conversations that I used to have in like old jobs or whatnot. I would come home like to give you an example, I used to work at Sportsbet as a sports analyst, and I would come home after, being paid to watch, 7 games of ice hockey. And I was like, fuck, I was not paid enough for the work I did today. And I'm like, turn your fucking brain on. Like, in what world can you complain about that as someone who is like, grew up and became a mad hockey fan. Like, it is amazing how sometimes, like, everyone does it. Everyone as a human is guilty of it. Your perspective can just go awry for whatever reason, because, you know, maybe your girlfriend yelled at you in the morning, or your dog pissed on the carpet, or whatever. You got cut off, and you're all of a sudden, you're just like, your day is just shifted, and you, for some reason, just completely turn the blinkers off. And, you know, you go, well, hang on, I'm owed this or I'm owed that, when the reality is you're really not.
Yeah. I mean, look, but that's like, we're humans and we're emotionally charged. So of course, if something's not going to the way you want it to go, your natural response will be anger, frustration, or why it's not fair. And that's hard to just have that immediate switch to be, instead of that, you know, that negative one, to say, oh, maybe it's okay. Maybe there's an opportunity here instead of a missed opportunity. And that, I mean, I'm still working on that. So, and I literally have to practice it every day. So I don't expect someone who's never done it before to be able to just flick a switch and start being that optimist or an opportunist.
A previous episode I did with a man named Josh Young, who's a friend of mine who is a paraplegic. He talked about, he used the accident as a chance to rebuild and to do something that he couldn't have done, you know, beforehand. And so he went back to school, and, you know, essentially now is working in something that he always wanted to do, but, you know, for whatever reason, his previous path, you know, took him another way. Talk about something that, you know, you've been able to go, like, holy shit, I don't think I was going to be able to do this before, because, say, I was in the army or whatever, I was living in Adelaide, that now, you know, since the accident, you're like, I can actually do this and I can work towards this.
Yeah, it's cool that we're able to use, and I say we because the spinal cord community, I'll just say we, spinal cord injury community. It's such a moment where you can sit back and look at your life and think, what do I need to change, or what can I change? And for me, was that realization that I can't do things physically. And that was how I thought I was going to live my life, like a physical job, or, you know, as I said, you know, living in the gym all the time. But now it's like, all right, I need to use this one. I need to use this muscle. So I started doing public speaking, used that as a bit of a side business, and now it is my business. And then I thought, I need to build some validation as to what I'm talking about. So I thought, let's go to uni. So this year I started back at university at the age of 30, after leaving RMIT 10 or so years ago, because it just wasn't for me. I went back to uni this year, and like, I absolutely loved it. Loved every single day of it. And I was saying no to catching up with people because I wanted to study, I wanted to read. It just engulfed my life. So yeah, that's been a moment where I've been able to sit back and say, all right, let's recalibrate and let's do something different. And for me, it was go to uni.
Yeah. What are you studying?
Psychological science.
I'll let you in on a little bit of a secret, mate. I'm actually going to uni next year to do psychology.
Well done.
Mate,
good on you.
It's to be honest with you, it's something that I'm actually, like, I don't remember the last time I was actually this excited for something. Mate, it is honestly, it's great for me to hear you that, you know, that you're so, you know, at 30, because I'm guessing I had the same reservations that you probably had. It's like, you know, fuck, like, it's been so long since I've been at school.
But you're going back with the right intentions.
No, 100%. And I think that makes it, you know, absolutely, it makes a world of difference when you sort of look back to, say, when you were studying marketing, because as you sort of said, you know, I was, you know, kind of a bit of a sheep, and everyone went to uni, and you were like, well, fuck it, I guess I'm going too.
No, and you'll find that you're going back and you want to do well. Like, you're going back and you want to read, you want to, because that's why you're there. You're not going there because you have to. Good on you. Good luck. I look forward to hearing about it next year.
Maybe we can have a little bit of a competition with grades. I mean, you'll probably flog me in that, because I was never an amazing student, but
don't worry.
A battle for who can get 50% on a test.
Yeah,
that's great.
The adage. P's get degrees, mate. Just stick to it.
That's it. Let's talk about everyday life now, because I think you've sort of mentioned the fact that, you know, you kind of could just wake up and, you know, kind of, you know, do nothing, and essentially now you're in control of your day and sort of how you shift that, or how you attack that. Talk
Yeah.
about like an everyday life now, how you approach the business, uni work, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. I guess I used to be able to just wake up and stay in bed, but there's a little 11-month-old girl that lives here that doesn't allow me to just stay in bed or sleep in anymore. She's up, and when she's up, everyone's up. That's Esme, obviously. But look, I think it was about 4 months or 3 months ago now, there was a bit of an incident with a local establishment, which led me to get exposed to a fair bit of publicity. And in doing so, I got offered a job from a company called Get Skilled Access. They're like a disability advocacy company, and they're trying to change the game of disability around the world, and especially Australia. They offered me a job, so I thought, oof, like, what do I do? I'm really enjoying uni, but there's a job offer here, so I took it. But I haven't been able to actually start it. So for the past 3 months, I've been training 3 or 4 days a week, like physically preparing for a new bike I've got that's coming in. It's like a hand cycle, which I'll be able to then race in competitively against other people. But, my daily life now is wake up, work on my business of my speaking, trying to get people to book me to do some talks at schools or businesses or sporting clubs. Hang out with Esme and Elisa, my wife, just enjoy that, hang out with my family and her family, and just relax, mate, because I think when I start this job, actually on Monday next week, things will be a lot different. But for the past 4 months, my daily life has been pretty good, pretty fun.
Talk about the bike. Are you a little bit of a savage on that?
I haven't ridden it yet.
Oh, really?
But,
okay.
No. I haven't ridden it like outdoors. I've ridden it in a little factory, and it looks exciting. It looks so good. I was fortunate enough to get sponsored by Legacy Melbourne, who's like a veterans, an ex-service organisation that looks after veterans and their families. They sponsored me. They actually paid for the bike. They're paying for some training gear and everything, and they're going to be like behind me, because I said to them, the big goal, and I guess I'm throwing myself under the bus here, is the Olympics or the Paralympics in 3 years' time, to get there. So to get on that bike and train with them. So I've been training with my trainer and waiting for this bike. It's been made in Germany.
Yeah.
It'll get sent here in December, and I guess that's when the fun will start. I'll be sure to put something on my Instagram, because I don't know how I'll go. I haven't ridden it outside yet.
Yeah, mate, that's absolutely incredible. You're absolutely not throwing yourself under the bus there at all. I think it's absolutely sensational when people flat out come out and say, this is what I want to do. Like, it's no aspirations are ridiculous to me. I mean, obviously, like if you said, hey, I want to be the next American president, obviously that's one thing. But I have a friend who, very passionate man about lawn bowls, and I was speaking to him the other night, and I was just sort of chatting to him about it, because I don't really know much about it, and he literally said the same thing. He goes, yeah, I'm going to try and go into, I'm not sure what the Paralympics version of the Commonwealth Games is, but he's like, yeah, I'm aiming for that, in 5 years. And that was so fucking cool to me, because I think so many people in society now are very worried about, if you say something like that, like people are going to go like, oh, that's not going to happen. Or they're going to be like, are you kidding me? But I'm absolutely huge for, partly because I'm one of those people who just does that. Like, I just love to, attack something that, might be outside of my grasp. But it's like the pursuit towards working towards something is honestly almost more enjoyable than actually completing it. Like it's honestly, it's such an amazing thing for your psyche and for your mindset. And mate, to come out there and flat out say it and, attack it, and I can see the smile on your face, I have so much kudos and so much praise for you for doing that.
Thanks, mate. Thank you very much. I definitely agree with you in regards to the journey. The journey is going to be fun. It's going to hurt. Hopefully there'll be some successes along the way. But yeah, the journey's the main part, which I'm really looking forward to.
Absolutely. It's going to be a journey that we'll definitely follow. And hopefully in a couple of years, we'll be able to get another we'll be able to get a Paralympian on the show, because we've had an Olympian, but it'd be
I saw you
time
had
to.
Michael Jordan last week. That was pretty good.
So funny story. My mum thought that was real. And someone else messaged me, but I wasn't sure if he was joking or not. But I think two people thought it was real. But I also am not sure if my mum knows who Michael Jordan is. But no, we've had a little bit of a drop down in guests, Michael Jordan into you, but not too much of a drop down.
No, not too much. Just a world away. That's all.
Yeah, no, that's it. You mentioned your daughter a couple of times there. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to say that that's a life-changing experience.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Talk about, how important that has been, and, just how amazing, being a father is. And I'm guessing it's probably at the time of your accidents, not something that you're thinking about, but, it's such a life-changing moment.
Yeah. Oh, look, I hate talking about it, but obviously, the time of the accident, I was like, oh, I'll never be a dad. I'll never get married. I'll never do this and that because I'm in a wheelchair. But, look, fast forward 7 years and I've done all of that and then some more, thanks to heaps of help, obviously, and some of my own hard work. But when Esme was born almost a year ago now, I was just talking to Elisa about it last night. Like that first morning I woke up because Elisa was still in hospital. I don't think I could have got ready fast enough or got in the car fast enough or got to the hospital fast enough. And I remember going through the door into the room where Elisa was holding Esme, and Elisa hadn't slept all night because it was like the first night of having a baby. And I just remember like holding her and looking at how small she was, and I just didn't stop staring at her for hours, and nothing has changed. Like every morning she'll wake up and I'll just sit there and just hold her and stare at her and just muck around with her and play. And it's no matter like how much money you've got in your bank, no matter what items you've got in your life, nothing brings you that satisfaction or the happiness and the joy that hearing her little voice or watching her face, or like even a smile on her face when she sees you or you. I bring her a baby chino every morning. It doesn't come near it. Nothing will ever come near it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I've had a few friends who've just had kids this year, and it's a strange question to ask, like what's it like, because it's one of those things that you can't explain it. I'm just guessing, because everyone's like, this is a life-changing moment, and it's just I can only imagine what's going through your mind as you sort of walk through that door. Like, are you not just going like, holy shit, on the other side of this door my daughter is there and I'm about to see my daughter for the first time?
Yeah. It was crazy. And fortunately, the night that Elisa's waters broke, I filmed from the moment like we left the apartment to the hospital, through the procedure, through the process, and through her giving birth. And the moment that Esme was put onto Elisa's chest, you can hear my voice start to crackle and get emotional and start like, oh, the first time we said her name, I've watched that video so many times, and it's just really like it's better and better and better every time I watch it. And that moment, like you said, of going through the door when I knew I was going into the room where she was, you can't really explain it, but hopefully you get there one day, mate.
No, that's absolutely beautiful, and I do hope to get there one day, because that is mate, that's what life's all about right there. Like, you touched on, doesn't matter how much money you have or what possessions you have, that right there, mate, that's life. So that's absolutely beautiful. Talk about your wife. It's, once again, probably an understatement to say, how amazing and incredible she's been throughout this journey.
I met Elisa when I was 17, so just finishing school. So we were so young when we met, and we just sort of going through the early stages of like independence, leaving school. And Elisa's been probably, in my life since then, and hasn't left, apart from when I was overseas or interstate for work or away for anything. And life just doesn't seem real without Elisa in it, because she's been there for so long. And there's been some really hard times. As you do in relationships, you have hard times, but then also because of my injury, and then being overseas when I was in the army, And there's never been a moment where like Elisa's support has wavered, or I've thought maybe it's not going to work out. So I can't really compare it to bad stories or bad relationship stories. But yeah, I mean, Elisa's my wife. She's a mother, and she's my best friend. You know, I guess like everyone's wife or husband is their best friend, but I'm really fortunate. Fortunate is an understatement, I guess. But for everyone that knows Elisa, knows how much of a pure person she is, and extremely supportive of everything that I've done. And yeah, I guess the next 10 years of our life will be even better, I guess, as we bring more children into the world and we start, you know, growing our family, and our relationship shifts from husband and wife to husband and wife with kids. And, you know, we work through the challenges of life together of that.
That's incredible. And I mean, we'll finish up. We'll talk about a little bit about the work you do in the public speaking, because I think it is such an important thing to sort of touch on, and sharing stories like this is obviously such an important thing, and it has the potential to impact so many people. Talk about how you sort of approach that whole, I guess, that whole aspect of your life, and the fact that, you know, essentially it is your story. And for a large parts, it's understandable to want to be protective of certain aspects, but how do you approach that?
I think the successful aspect of my presentations is the honest part of it and how raw it is. And like I've learned that, you know, it's not easy doing what I do. It's not easy getting up there and sharing with a bunch of strangers the most vulnerable part of my life and the most intimate aspect of my life on a day-to-day basis. But I also understand the power of showing vulnerability, sharing a story, and showing to everybody that I was just an everyday person that had a life-changing event that got through the next few years of that through a few things, and touch on that in my presentation. But, you know, like I said, perspective, and I guess the relatable aspect of the whole story is the fact that I was like every one of us, just living my life, and something happened to me, and how I got through the next few years was through perspective and a few other things, and heaps of support and hard work. And sharing my story, I don't expect people to leave that room and change every minute aspect of their life. If I've changed one person's perspective, if I've changed one person's view on their day-to-day life, then my job is done. You know, I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm not going to climb Mount Everest and write 10 books, but I'll tell you a story about vulnerability and hardship, and you'll be able to relate to it.
No, that's brilliant, mate. For those who potentially do want to book you for a talk, how can they do that?
Yeah, I've got a website, joelsardi.com. I've got an Instagram, joelsardi. And yeah, I think they're the best two forms. There's details there. Book now. There's phone numbers. There's email addresses. Yeah, I'd love to present to anyone that would love to hear my story.
You have an absolutely incredible story, and I feel very privileged that you came on to share it on this platform, because
thanks, Chris.
Mate, you're an absolute superstar, and I'm very excited to see where you go next, especially with, working towards the Paralympics and, starting the new job on Monday in university, mate. You're an absolute star, and it is great to see. It's great to hear a story like this of, which can be, I guess, such a negative at sometimes, but to really put such a positive spin on life, and to, the way you attack it, mate, I have so much admiration for you for that.
Thank you, mate. And good luck to you. Thanks for having me, first of all. But good luck to you next year at uni. I look forward to hearing about it.